Hello, my name is Nino Gonzalez, and welcome to another episode of Making Sense. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing two of our accounting students here at El Paso Community College. And with me we have Claudia Garcia, and we also have Maria Guadalupe Favela. And thank you very much for joining me on today's show.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Well, I'd like for the audience to know a little bit about you and how you wound up taking accounting, and especially how you wound up here at El Paso Community College. So Claudia, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, what can I tell you is that I decided to come to the community college because I study English in the community service schools, and I know you have in the community college has a special program that is they try to give you options on the different careers that you have in the community college.
Right.
And that's why I find out that accounting is one of the careers that I could be interested, and how is what I decided to come into the community college.
So English is your second language, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background? Where are you from?
I'm born in Durango, Mexico. I lived a couple of years in Ciudad Juárez, and I made a career in the Instituto Tecnológico de Ciudad Juárez.
Oh, wow.
In computer systems. When I graduated, I moved to LA and lived there 2 years. After that, I moved here to El Paso.
And what brought you down here to El Paso? All this movement from going from Mexico to LA to El Paso?
Well, I moved to LA because I got married.
Okay.
After that, we noticed that the life there is so expensive, and my husband and I wanted to buy a house. For us, it was a little hard to live there and just have the thought that we want a house. We decided to look up another places to live, and my family lives in close the border in Ciudad Juárez, and we decided to move here to El Paso.
Wow, that's interesting. And can you tell me a little bit about, you said you graduated with your degree from Mexico.
Yes.
And have you done anything with that degree?
Unfortunately, no, I couldn't. I tried to do something with it, but I have the disadvantage I don't speak good English, and I didn't feel with the confidence to go outside and look it up for a job.
Well, I don't think you should feel bad about your English speaking skills, because they're excellent.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
So you decided not to continue in computer
Yeah.
and choose accounting. And
Yeah.
what made you choose accounting?
When I tried to find out if I can come into the college, and I found out that you in the community college have that special program that they try to look it up your skills and look it up a little bit in your background, and for all the working experience I have in my past, I feel interested in accounting, and I said, okay, let's go try. Until now, I don't feel regret for choose this career.
So did you have some experience in accounting before?
A little bit. I have something like bookkeeping.
Okay.
Like I work with a doctor there in Mexico, and I try to have all his paper in order, his receipts, his purchase orders, and all those things. And that's why I say, okay, why don't try this career?
Wow, that's interesting. And Guadalupe, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I was born in Mexico City, and when I was 8 years old, I went to live to Ciudad Juárez, and I finished my high school in Colegio de Bachilleres, and by this time I start to think about study public accounting. And because a counselor did a skill test and showed that I have abilities about accounting.
Wow. So did you study accounting before coming here to El Paso Community College?
Yes, I started my degree in Instituto Tecnológico de Ciudad Juárez. I finished all my classes, but I didn't get my certificate. And I like study the accounting.
Okay. So since you studied some accounting at the university level in Mexico,
Yes.
Did some of those credits transfer to El Paso Community College when they
Yes.
evaluated your transcript?
Yes.
Wow.
Some credits I have in El Paso Community College.
That applied from when you were taking classes in Mexico.
Yes.
Wow. And so you wanted to continue studying accounting here in the U.S., but what made you choose El Paso Community College and not go to a university?
I chose because I need to learn English first because I don't speak English when I came to El Paso, lived to El Paso, and I remember when I crossed the street, I saw an announcement that say El Paso Community College is the best place to start.
Wow.
And I impact my life and I tried to register in El Paso to first study English.
Wow. Well, that's great that at least the ads that we have out there are working and it's bringing people in. So that's good news for our marketing department here at El Paso Community College. So that's a thumbs up for them. Tell me, Claudia, what do you feel about the program that you're in right now? I know that you've taken some classes already, and I've been your instructor in some of those classes, especially some of the advanced ones. What have you thought about the program so far?
Oh, so far I feel, in general, I could say I have met very good teachers, especially you, and we talking a little bit about that, that you give us like the confidence, and we see the experience that you have in the instructor that we can find out in the community college. Like you are my instructor for 2 classes, and I feel like you are not taking the classes like there is a couple of guys just trying to learn something, but you take it very personal because you take the time to know the people by their name, and you make the student feel very comfortable.
Okay. And how about the skills that you're learning, about the knowledge? And do you think that once you complete your degree here at El Paso Community College, do you think we're preparing you adequately to find a job?
I think I do, especially because you try expose us to the real life. When we do exercises or homework, you tell us always that is that life, and we have to be focusing what we are learning, because when we are outside, we are not have a computer to tell us it is the answer of the homework is right or wrong, and that's give us the confidence that okay, we have to think, we have to take this one seriously about what we are learning.
And have you felt that English being your second language, have you felt that it's been a little bit more challenging or not really?
Well, for me, yes, had been a little challenging, especially in the test, because sometimes there are words that we don't understand clearly what they mean. But beside that, I had been instructors that they push on us and say, hey, don't feel like because you don't speak good English, you cannot participate. No, I feel that completely different. That the teacher say, hey, you can do it, and it's not a disadvantage. You can do this one, and you can participate. You can do whatever you want.
And I agree. And you know that's one of the reasons that I asked you to come on to the show and be interviewed, because you have unique stories, and I think the audience wants to hear about those unique stories, because there's a lot of people that are in that situation, and we don't want to use our language as a barrier. That we can move forward even though English is your second language. How about you, Guadalupe? Have you felt that it's been a little bit more difficult being English as a second language student?
Yes, for me it was very difficult for getting a job, and I thought to study English first in ESOL,
And you took those courses here at El Paso Community College. So in addition to trying to do your accounting courses and all your basics, you still had to take those English courses.
Yes, I started in fall 2012.
Okay.
And ESOL.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished my ESOL in 2014.
Okay. And did you work in accounting? You said you went to the university in Mexico in Juarez.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a chance to work in accounting?
I work in Ciudad Juarez with a CPA. I record the invoices, and I have a great experience with in accounting.
Right. And over there in Mexico, I guess the equivalent of a CPA here in the U.S., they're called contadores públicos,
Yeah.
Public accountants.
Public accounting.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so you were close to getting your certification up there
Yes.
in Mexico. And so you don't ever think of going back and maybe finishing it up and getting your certification up there?
Right now, I think about this. But I want to finish in this country. My CPA. This
Okay.
is my dream, and
So your goal is to continue on maybe to a university,
yes,
and hopefully be able to sit for the CPA exam and become a CPA here
yes,
in the United States.
yeah. This is
Wow.
my dream.
That's great. That's great. And what have you thought about the courses here at El Paso Community College, especially the accounting courses, now that you compare here to your education in Mexico?
It's very different, the courses, but this is very great classes, like cost accounting. This is a great class. Intermediate, I take right now, and this is a good.
So do you feel that by taking these courses and getting your degree in accounting here at El Paso Community College, that we are preparing you to go out and get a job?
Cost accounting is a good class because I learned about the process and the collecting, analyzing, and about the evaluating various alternative costs. And we can give advice to my manager to the better decision and the lowest cost.
Okay. So, and especially here, being that we're a border city and with a lot of maquiladoras,
Yeah.
they use a lot of cost
Yes,
accounting, especially in the manufacturing process across the border. So, did you take any type of cost accounting over there at the university that you studied in Mexico?
Yes, but I remember that it's a different. I don't know it's different, but I remember because I studied cost around 20 years ago.
Okay.
And
So how long ago was it that you attended school for accounting in Mexico?
in Mexico it's 20 years ago.
About 20 years ago.
Yes.
Wow. So within that time, and now you decided to pursue
Yes.
your associate's degree here at El Paso Community
Yes.
College after 20 years. Wow, that's really interesting, and I'd like to get to know more about your stories, and we can pick that up in the second half of the show, and we'll be right back to the second half of Making Sense and talking to these two great students from El Paso Community College. We were discussing and talking to two of El Paso Community College accounting students and have the pleasure of interviewing Claudia Garcia and Maria Guadalupe Favela. And thank you once again for being on the show. And we want to know more about you because I think, in my opinion, you have very interesting lives and what led you to come down here to El Paso and to attend El Paso Community College. So, Guadalupe, you told me that it has been about 20 years ago that you had studied accounting at the university.
Yes.
And then you decided to come to El Paso. What brought you to El Paso? and to live here and to go to school here?
I decided to leave El Paso because my children, pardon, my children come to the school
Okay.
in El Paso, and my husband and my little daughter cross the border every day,
Oh, wow.
and was a very difficult for everybody.
Okay, and you said your children go to school here.
Yes.
So are they small? Are they grown up?
No, my daughter, she has 18 years.
Okay, and she's going to school where?
In UTEP.
At UTEP. Wow.
she is in
And
UTEP.
what is she studying?
She's studying nursing.
Nursing. Okay, and you said you had some other children, and what are they doing?
Yes, they are. My children have 10 years and 12 years.
Okay, so only one is going to UTEP. Okay.
Yes, because my other children
Are still younger. Okay, so that's real interesting. So instead of commuting back and forth, you all decided to move to El Paso and make a
Yes.
life here. Wow.
Yes.
And so after 20 years, what made you decide to come back to school?
Because I talk about this because I saw the
You saw the ad.
the announcement,
Uh-huh.
and for me it was a dream to be in EPCC.
Wow. Okay, great. And so you decided to continue in accounting, and you said that there's differences between. Is there quite a bit of differences between the Mexican accounting practices and the U.S. accounting practices,
Yes.
or is there a lot of similarities?
I think it's different.
Okay.
Because in this country is very simplified, the income statement and the balances. I think so.
Okay. So you think the U.S. accounting practices are a little bit more simplified than the Mexican
Yeah.
accounting practices? Really? Wow.
I think so.
I don't know if you can say that about the tax law. I think the tax law is more simplified in Mexico than
No,
it
in
is.
Mexico, I think so is more complicated.
More complicated
Yes,
than the
the
IRS?
taxes, the IRS.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And here we're complaining that we have a very complicated income tax system and a lot of loopholes and so many laws regarding that. So you actually do feel that in Mexico it's a little bit more complex
Yes.
and more complicated.
The taxes.
And what similarities have you seen? What's the same?
It's the same accounting.
Okay.
Introduction accounting is the same thing.
Okay.
The principles.
Okay.
Two.
So debits and credits,
Debits,
those are
credits,
still the same.
Yeah.
And the set of financial statements,
Yeah,
those are
that
still
is
the
the
same. It's
same.
just how they're presented. You're saying that in Mexico they're presented a little bit different than they are here.
No, it's a person a little bit different.
A little bit different than
But
they
they're
are
the
here in
same
the
thing.
U.S. But we still have the same thing. So not only, and whenever I have my accounting students, especially my Principles 1 students, you're learning English as a second language,
Yes.
but you're also learning another language, which is the language of business.
Yes.
Because a lot of students have a lot of difficulty, especially when they come into Principles of Accounting 1. They don't know what I'm talking about. And I tell them it's like you're learning a whole new language, and accounting is the language of business, and this is what you're going to be using if you're going to be studying business, and you have to know the terminology. So basically, you had to learn English, and now you had to learn
Accounting language.
Yeah.
business terminology and accounting terminology, and having it reference it back to the Mexican language. Do you all use like some sort of Mexican Spanish English dictionary, especially like for financial terms, or just a regular one?
For me, I use a regular one because sometimes you couldn't find that translate of certain words.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's not that easier, and sometimes it's better to find out who can explain you what does mean that word without that very technical words.
The technical words.
Yes.
Okay.
It's for me, it's better to try find out what means that word in English, especially for accounting words, than that go and look at a dictionary to translate the word, because
Right.
sometimes it's not means the same thing.
And I remember when I was at UTEP many years ago as a student, and I remember that at the Juarez bookstores they used to sell actually a dictionary for financial and accounting terms that would go from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English. And I had one, I bought one, because when I graduated from UTEP, I would be sent to the maquiladoras to do audits over there. So that dictionary really became very handy to me. But I don't know where I left it, and now I can't get a copy of it. But good thing there's the internet. I think you can find a lot of those terms on the internet now. How about yourself, Guadalupe? What did you use to help you translate some of these terms from English into your Spanish, what you can understand the most?
I think I need to translate some term.
Right. And what do you use to help you do that? Do you use a dictionary? Do you use the internet?
I use normally internet.
The internet? And do you find it reliable in having you translate some of the accounting and financial terms from English to Spanish or
Yes.
back and forth? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And so right now, what is one of the courses that you think is going to help you the most that you've taken so far?
Cost is, I think it's like a backbone of everything in accounting, especially because we have to not only do the math, we
Okay.
have to think about what is the best decision we have to do, and is something very, very, I don't know, impressed that it's not accounting is only rest and add, is think and see through the situation that you have in your hands.
Right.
Because it's money, is not is the what the people are investing in a company. It's not okay, don't take everything like easy, but you have to be very sure what are you doing.
So you're saying that the courses that you've taken, they're not just giving you the technical skills, they're also giving you thinking skills, analytical skills.
Yeah, well, it's like very important part of the courses. Not only add and subtract, is have to think how your decision going to affect the company where are you working or the job that you're doing.
Right.
Because it's not, you can take it like, no, it's not important. Yeah, it's very important how you thinking and how you analyze that
And solve a problem.
The problem.
Okay. And how about you, Guadalupe? What's been like the best course that you've taken so far? And it doesn't have to be accounting, it could be any course that you've taken so far at El Paso Community College that will help you, that you think will help you the most.
Right now I take QuickBooks.
Okay.
And I think it is a very interesting class because in every business or factory use this program.
Okay. So QuickBooks, for those people that don't know in the audience, is a computerized accounting software program that a lot of small businesses use, which is QuickBooks. So, so you think that when you graduate, can you go help a business set up QuickBooks and be able to teach them how to use it, or maybe do it for them on QuickBooks?
Yes.
Yes.
I can use in my work, and I can teach another person.
Okay, great. And Claudia, right now you're enrolled in a payroll class, correct?
Yes.
And I just have curiosity because I like to find out differences between countries. So you're learning about payroll and U.S. and Texas payroll laws. How does that compare to payroll in Mexico?
Oh, I couldn't tell you exactly because I didn't be exposed to payroll in Mexico because in the little company that I used to work, was only the doctor and me.
Okay.
So he managed his payroll with his CPA,
Right.
and the only thing that I do was report how many hours I work,
Right.
and that's it. But let me tell you that it's very interesting how the reason why we are taxing in a certain way, and how we can find out why our gross pay is like that, and we receive is with certain deductions. So
Right. And do you think the payroll laws are more complicated here in the United States and the regulations that we have than they are in Mexico?
I think yes, because usually like our employees, they don't know why they are deducting how our money is taken from our gross pay.
Right.
So I think
So you think that it's a little bit more complicated
no, I
here?
think it's well, if you go inside and jump in the regulations, could be a little difficult if you don't have the basis, the fundamentals that we are teaching in the payroll classes.
Okay. Do you know anything about payroll from your studies in Mexico and how they differ here to the U.S.?
I don't remember the payroll in Mexico because I don't work in.
Right.
But I take the course in EPCC.
Right. But do you think the laws here are more complicated?
I think it's more complicated in Mexico because Mexico have more taxes than in this country.
Than in the U.S., really?
Yes.
And do you think you get taxed more in Mexico than you do in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yes. Do you have anything to add to that, Claudia?
Wow, actually, what I learned from my payroll classes is that we don't have state taxes here in El Paso, well, Texas. And sometimes we complain because they said, oh, we have a very high property taxes, but it's an advantage that we don't have state taxes.
Right, and Texas is one of 9 states in the U.S. that does not have a state income tax.
Yes.
If you go to New Mexico, you do have a state income tax, and even if you live here in El Paso and work somewhere in New Mexico, you still have to pay a state income tax.
Yes.
So that's one of the advantages of living here in Texas is that we do not have a state income tax. But you're very right on that. Since we don't have a state income tax, our sales tax is a little bit higher.
Yes.
And property taxes are a little bit higher because we don't have a state income tax. But that's a real good observation. And in Mexico, you do have some state income taxes, correct?
Yes, and we have property taxes too.
You
so.
have property taxes too? Oh,
Yes.
wow. So there's a lot of similarities and some differences there, but you still think that in the U.S. you are taxed less?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, and sometimes we can see that that's taxes applying in our city where we live, in our roads, and
Wow. Well, that's good to hear. It's always interesting to find out differences between one country and another and how another person views that country comparing to the U.S. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come down and do the TV show with me. It was really interesting talking to you and learning more about you, and I'm sure the audience will find this show real exciting and interesting. And I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of Making Sense, and we'll see you next time.